Good morning. Um, so to start off, I've just been considering the dial and obviously I explained why I named it the dial, but I'm adapting it to my own channel. So the dial readapted from the Transcendentalists to me represents more the wheel of the year, the pagan wheel of the year, with the 8 holidays associated with it. Yeah, and I'm probably gonna end up designing my own plate for the wheel of the year. That'll be fun. I've seen some wheels of the year that are really good, but I don't want to copy their design, so I'll keep you updated. Yeah, we're approaching August 1st, which is Lughnasadh, which on that day I'll explain more about it. But anyways, I'm gonna continue with courage. So each chapter explanation, I didn't with the lower levels, I didn't really get into this, but I should have, just to go over each calibration level thoroughly. So in each level, David Hawkins has an introduction, and then he gets into social expressions, and then he gets into ego dynamics, and then he gets into transcending that level. So at this point, I'm going to get into the ego dynamics. So level 200 tends to be self-reinforcing due to inner balance, alignment with integrity and truth, and successful functioning. Its inner dictum is to stay on course and, like a ship, right oneself from the temporary effects of the waves of life. The lower emotions still erupt periodically and require correction, but they are now unwelcome rather than sought or valued. So the calibrated level of consciousness is a consequence of alignment with spiritual principles. It directs one's destiny and is analogous to the setting of the ship's compass. By alignment with integrity, there is the acceptance of character defects, which are seen as challenges for self-improvement rather than as excuses for blame. Rather than excuses for blame, self-pity, or resentment. At level 200, goals are value-driven, and their achievement is both realistic and feasible. The function of the psychological ego, as seen by psychoanalysis, is to align the personality with the social reality of the external world, and to simultaneously balance the personality component of the conscience, which Sigmund Freud came up with that. The superego. So the conscience is Freud's superego, with the ego ideal internalized standards against the primitive instinctual animal drives, or the id. So psychology is a new, call me stupid, but psychology is a relatively new endeavor for me, since I spent, I spent 22 years devoted to the teachings of Jesus in the Bible, in the 12 tribes. Which was a learning experience, as I explained before in my videos. But yeah, now I'm learning about about these three components: the superego, the ego ideal, and the id. Lack of success in this requisite function leads to pathological conditions and traits, such as the projection of inner disapproval, fear, or primitive instincts onto others in the external world via blame or paranoia. Hopefully I'm not boring you with this, but I see it's necessary to dive into and try to explain as much as I can. Failure to control instincts results in upsurges of repressed rages, as well as fear and depression. An excessive or sadistic superego can also be projected onto others and result in rigid character traits, self-hatred, and self-punitive guilt. These mechanisms are important to know and best described by Anna Freud in her book, The Ego and Mechanisms of Defense. That was Freud's daughter, which she had an interesting relationship with. Successful self-inquiry requires a realistic appraisal of the limitations of human development and tolerance for both ambiguity and the normalcy of being less than perfect. By the inner increase of spiritual power, the payoff, and he talks about this a lot, the payoff of lower ego positions are rejected for the pleasure that is innate to their replacement by honesty and integrity. In other words, you get this emotional payoff by feeling like you're a victim or blaming others for your situations instead of blaming yourself. Equanimity itself is found to be both gratifying and pleasurable, as well as to increase self-confidence. From level 200 up, responsible social relationship is now possible. While the lower emotional levels leads to involvement with others, at 200 the intention now shifts to alignment with others and the rewarding principle of mutuality rather than egocentricity. Without the interference of narcissistic distortions, the capacity for reality testing replaces perceptual illusions and pretenses. Without the constant interference of discord, there is the emergence of harmony as an operating principle that enables getting along with others and coordinating activities. The consequence is an increase in social approval and acceptance. Each in turn reinforces integrous goals and motivations. Anxieties and uncertainties are accepted as normal, and concomitant to growth. So because of the alignment with truth at 200, there is improved capacity to discern truth from falsehood, and the intellect advances markedly, developing the capacity to detect the substitute of emotionalized rhetoric for valid, confirmable validity. And I think I'm going to stop there. It may seem like I'm chewing along with this, but again, I felt the necessity to chew through this and come to understand the levels more and ego more. So that's it for today, and see you next time.